Good evening and welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. You are joining your host, Greg Tompsett, along with my victorious partner in crime, Aaron Quinn.
Yep.
Aaron, how big of a difference does this week make?
All the difference in the world, dude.
Whew.
Like we started out last week, like literally contractually obligated to have to do that in the middle of the night on a Monday night after that. And we even talked about it. Like we didn't go through our normal even pace of breaking down the post-game show. Didn't even care. We did such a bad job for you guys trying to talk you through that one. But no, this week I even said to you, there was a couple of tasks that I might get in trouble for not doing ahead of the show and I had no excuse because in the fourth quarter of this game, I was literally just sitting back, relaxed on my couch, not tense at all, just dumping food all over myself, just like happy as could be, enjoying explosive plays. Yeah, the 1 week makes all the difference in the world. And in honor of the left turn party that we were at yesterday, man, we're back. Deal with it, America. We're so back.
Yeah, incredibly accurate motto from Greg over at Left Turn. It was fantastic. But you guys are joining us here because the Buffalo Bills have defeated the Las Vegas Raiders 38-10 in the home opener. They were able to pretty much control this from, I won't say from the very beginning, because obviously there was a tense moment here where we'll go through it play by play, where the Raiders opened with a touchdown drive. The Bills went 3 and out and the Raiders got the ball back. And I was like, are we just bad now? Like, it was this like one of those like Freaky Friday movie things where we switch bodies with someone. I'm like, what is going on? I did all the work and analysis on this game. This is not what was supposed to happen. And literally from that moment forward, from the Terrel Bernard interception, we'll go through some of the play-by-play and through each quarter. It just completely flipped. And from that moment forward, we had a 38-3 game the rest of the way, just complete domination. But they couldn't help but get our heart racing a little bit.
And I wasn't, to be totally honest with you. And we'll talk about when we get into that breakdown. But I tweeted it out at the time, like, very typical of a Leslie Frazier coach defense. And I was interested to see, like, does the Bills defense settle into this game? And the answer was yes, they did end up settling into this game. And exactly sort of the overall played out sort of what I talked about, although a bigger gap than I had projected that it would, that this team, this Bills team, this roster is just so deep and that it would become suffocating to a team like the Raiders for a 4 quarter. So I knew, like, hey, they might have a punch in them. They got Devontae Adams. They got some guys that can make plays. Jimmy G can orchestrate drives to perfection. They can make that punch. Can they do it for 4 quarters? And I really just, even after that first drive, was like, okay, that's frustrating. But feeling like that Sean McDermott defense was going to settle in and give you more opportunities for your offense than they were going to have to drive down the field. And so I didn't waver or feel anxious really at any point in this one.
Yeah, and I think that it's one where we need to feel really, really good about what happened, and they were supposed to win. They were supposed to win this game. They were favored by, it actually made a couple people nervous. It was 9.5. It went to 8.5 right before the game. It went to 7.5. So I feel really bad for all the sharp bettors who were pushing that line down because they just lost a lot of money. So I'm not 100% sure. I think there was just some anxiety about that. There weren't any weird injuries or anything there. So maybe just some anxiety that, like, hey, maybe the Bills aren't that good.
Maybe the narrative around the Bills being like that team that was going to fall off got to Vegas or got to bettors.
Yeah. So, a lot of really exciting stuff. Plenty of reason for us to be excited. But let's, go through this, and we're going to go through our normal paces here. But before we do that, we want to share with you guys why we do all this work, what you can do to be able to help us out. And that's by signing up for Cover One Pass. We'll let these handsome gentlemen take it away.
Guys,
Many people ask us the best way to support us here at Cover One, and that is to sign up to become a Cover One Pass member. That contribution helps give us the access to all the data and information we use to create the content that you love.
And I think most importantly, brings you into our community of insiders. It's a great community based on Slack. I know a lot of people don't want to be on social media anymore or be in on those conversations. We bring all of it to you right in our great community of educated fans. And most importantly, you get access to our content creators.
Even better than that, everybody loves merch. You get awesome t-shirts, a cool decal, and a letter from the Cover One team signed directly to you.
all for $60. That gets you the entire season, next year's free agency and draft. $60. Click the link in the description. Cover One Insider. Become one today.
So again, help us out. Really appreciate it. For everybody that's just joining in, make sure to press that like button. We're going to have a lot of fun here today.
Yes,
but
sir.
Let's go through our normal paces here, Aaron. I talked about it.
Yeah.
You were a bit calmer than I was. I was sitting there stewing in my own juices for a moment.
No, yeah, I wasn't happy.
What is going on? It was like screenplay, weird jet screenplay, and all of a sudden, like, wait, what is going on? Like, they didn't run the ball. Josh Jacobs had -4 rushing, and they went down the field, and all of a sudden now we're in position. Like, how did a jet sweep in 2 bubble screens and they scored a touchdown? What the hell is going on? Yeah. And then we flip around and go 3 and out. And, you know, again, that next drive, they even get a first down. Josh Jacobs takes another pass there. And I'm like, God, what is happening here? Yeah. And then all of a sudden, Terrel Bernard makes the big play off of a guy who deserves a lot of attention today. You know, Ed Oliver, Daquan Jones, more pressure up the middle, caused that interception, and the floodgates kind of opened from there. But in that moment, I'd love to say I wasn't anxious, but I certainly was.
I mean, I don't want to sit here and say I was like cool as the other side of the pillow or anything like that, but I've just seen this play out with the start of a game. There's something about this scheme, especially in the beginning of a game, where they're almost kind of sitting back in it, waiting to see how is this offensive coordinator. It's usually with like the better offensive coordinators. It's how are they going to attack us? You saw it. I predicted it going into that Minnesota game last year. Like, I watched Minnesota put together some really good drives and had an offensive coordinator that was stacking together those really good drives in the beginning of the game, the beginning of a half, and seeing, again, Leslie Frazier's defense time and time again, giving up a good first drive to a team. But then they do sort of get the tape and settle it in and gets to start to generate some pressures and dare you to continue to be able to do those 10, 11 play drives continuously over and over again. And also at the same time, keep up with the pace of our offense. Because even despite the performance we saw out of the offense a week ago and going 3 and out there right away, you still knew that the lack of depth and lack of team that the Raiders had, that Josh was going to be able to get going and score. Even if he was going to come out and have an ugly game, Greg, I felt like we're still going to put up 20, right? Like if this defense can hold this to under 20, Josh should still be able to do that even with an ugly game. So that's why at this point, I'm knowing that, you know, a Sean McDermott-led defense is going to settle in here and make it hard, and they just don't have the weapons. If you could take Adams out or you can get some pressure on Jimmy G, they're not going to be able to do that type of drive consistently, and I ended up being right. I hate when that happens. My wife doesn't listen to the show enough to know that it does happen every once in a while. But yes, no, it was right, and they settled right in for the rest of this game from that interception on, and it was good to see Bernard. You know, somebody said it here. I already lost it because we don't have producer Chris here tonight. Thanks a lot, Chris.
Yeah, apologize for some of the comments. We're normally better about pulling those up because Chris is helping us in the background.
But it was tonight, here, he's with John Herring, a name we see often. Thank you for your support here, John. Saying we give Spencer Brown and Terrel Bernard a bit of credit today, and I agree. We've been super hard, especially on Spencer names. Brown today. And yeah, you'll hear a lot of credit going their way. But it started off with a big pick, and being, you know, he didn't make the play to cause the deflection to get that ball in the air, but this was the knock on Tremaine Edmonds often, was not creating the splash plays when they became available, right? It's cool you take away some of that stuff in the passing game, but being able to create those turnovers, maybe Bernard is a little more like Milano in that sense of when the ball's in the air, he's going to go try to get it.
And yeah, we'll talk a little bit more about him later on. A couple nice sticks where he came up and put his shoulder down against an all-pro like Josh Jacobs. There's some good stuff there that we should be happy about. One of the super chats early, Kel, was that an effective run game that we might be able to count on as we go. We saw it that next drive. So Terrel Bernard makes the interception there. Quick pass to Stefon Diggs, because that's what you're supposed to do. Be able to get the ball going to Stefon Diggs, but then right back 8 yards to Latavius Murray. A couple little passes to Hardy, back to Diggs. And then Latavius Murray, Josh ran for a little bit, and Latavius Murray punched it in. We're going to talk about all the different running backs here today, but 35 carries for 183 yards from that backfield. We should feel super, super excited. And I do think we're going to see more of that 12 personnel, more of that running game. What that allowed Josh to do today is, when we gush about Josh pretty soon here, that really set him up to be able to be successful.
Yeah. And again, you know, to the sign that you got me here, I'm going to pump my own brakes and everyone's brakes. Like, you know, last week we measured how bad it looked on the curve of, hey, we played the Jets. I think we also got to measure our excitement of this game
Yep.
on this is what it should look like against the Raiders and how this team stacks up and what they've done on that defense and where they're at right now. You should be able to move the ball. But what I walked away with impressed was in the run game specifically, and it showed itself here, right? We've seen Cook bursting and getting on the outside and doing some of that stuff that makes him exciting. We haven't really gotten to see Harris, even to this point in this game. You hadn't really gotten to see him. And Murray, we knew that, hey, this is a guy year in and year out. He's going to have this type of success, and he just runs hard. He's big and physical. But we haven't seen a ton of him here yet this summer. And to be able to see him in that situation, in a goal line situation, I tweeted out at that time, Greg, that like, dude, this is unfair to give him a running head start, like within 5 yards of a goal line. Like he's just going to push forward for that. And later in the game, you know, as good as this game was and looks as clean as it does on a box score, there was a little bit of struggles in a red zone, a little bit of inefficiency down by the goal line. And my plan would be like, first and second down, if you're within 10 yards of the goal line, like give him a running head start and see what happens. Like you're going to get half of it. You might get in. Like he's just a bowling ball. And so the running game, to the point of the super chat, is walked away feeling as advertised. Everybody did their role as intended. And when that happens, it looks real nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really puts us in position to be able to appreciate everything that was going on here. And I think,
and so you're 7-7 here.
Yeah, they tie it up. They come right back, and the defense immediately gets a quick 3 and out with more pressure. Again, you had AJ Epinesa knocking down the pass there and being, you know, just in a good controlling mechanism, and that you turned it around, especially after that kind of fluky drive earlier. It was some gimmicky plays that the Raiders went down the field on, and good for them. Josh McDaniels had a good scripted start, and they knew we were going to be aggressive. So I think that's smart by him to do it. But I was glad we settled in and then came right back again with another 11-play, 84-yard touchdown drive here, straight down the field with again, more good mix. This time we got a little bit more pass going in this drive. And just, again, dink and dunk down the field plays. And then the nice one to Gabe Davis on the play action to go over top. I thought that one was really nice.
Yeah, nice and physical play from Gabe. A quiet a little bit to this point in the game. Later, we will talk about Gabe quite a bit. Not a quiet game for Gabe Davis here. But right there, you get going. You see Stefon Diggs talked about his physicality in I think it was on the Von Miller show this week, talking about guarding him and like the type of physical nature that he has. And I think you saw Josh Allen lean into that a couple times in this game, throwing to him, not necessarily open, but knowing that he was the biggest guy there. And if he gives Gabe a chance, he's going to go up and get in. Another thing we saw from Gabe, again, as advertised, was different types of catches, right? Like he's been criticized for how he has brought the ball in and caught the ball, but very effective, grabbing all different kinds here today.
Strong hands, snagged it right out of the air. Really nice catch.
And then after that, you get the pre-snap penalty where they ended up going for the shot and they get 19 yards out of that play, right? That happened right there, which is a heads up consistently we see from the Bills offense. That was something that we really saw come in under Dayball, where they were able to start getting that. For years, right, the Patriots would get that and the Bills were unable to get that. They get that one of those kind of free plays and capitalize on that. You almost get an explosive. I can't quite track it as an explosive in that moment, but
19 yards.
This is what you need to move the ball down the field when you're going to try to stack together an 11-play drive. And then they just kind of keep rolling right here. They get Diggs for 5, Harris with another run on 13 and 3. What he gets, I had it as an 11-yard run on 3rd and 3. You get from Harris. And then you get into a goal line situation. You get the touchdown to Knox, putting you up 14-7. So you were a little hesitant, right? Like 12 minutes ago in game action, feeling a little nervous. 11-play drive, 84 yards, 6 minutes off the clock, balance to the Bills offense. How are you feeling now?
Well, and especially the biggest piece of this, one, feeling really good, really confident in the way it was set up. And the biggest piece was that touchdown. They go jumbo personnel. So they bring in David Edwards as the 6th offensive lineman. They bring Knox in off of motion. They had him split out wide. They bring him in. It looks like an obvious run that they're going to go with Latavius Murray in the backfield right to him. They go play action. Josh even does like the hesitation where he puts the ball on his hip and he stops and stands there for a split second. Then naked bootleg rolls around, Knox blocks for a second, and then leaks out. For as much frustration as people gave Ken Dorsey, that is absolutely picture perfect goal line play calling of personnel, situation, formation, pre-snap motion, play action, like all the things that you want to see of intelligent, high probability play calling is right there. And that is what you want in setting up easy touchdowns for our, playmakers. And Josh made it look great.
Josh also had an easy one of those where he just like leaps in over the goal line touchdowns if he wanted to, like jumping, running in.
Yeah.
Like nobody was going to touch him. That play was so wide open on that entire half of the field. To your point, they sold it well. Yeah, great. We're going to talk about Josh and the turnaround for him, but really Ken Dorsey and the entire offensive staff with a nice turnaround and just keeping everything on track the entire game. It really looked like they were just punching forward really from this point on. Right. And one thing I want to circle back on real quick, right? Because I only see his name a couple more times up here, but you talked about that pressure on the last Raiders drive leading to the punt, quick 3-and-out for the Raiders. Ed Oliver was also in on that with AJ Epinesa, and I had his name here. That's why I wanted to circle back, because I put a little like red dot if it's a more impressive play that I want to get to. I had 4 up to this point. We're only a couple possessions in for the Raiders here, right? We're 3 possessions, a handful of plays on the second 2 possessions in, and Ed Oliver's impact was real. And it didn't show up on the stats sheet because it was all, again, pressures and just being super disruptive, and other people ended up making the play from his disruption. But got to point out and give my hats off to Ed Oliver. He should take advantage of that matchup and Greg Van Roten in that interior, but he definitely did, and it impacted early.
Absolutely. And I think this drive answering by the Raiders is, to show respect to the fact that, hey, they do still have Devontae Adams, and Devontae Adams made a couple ridiculous catches and just found open space, got an 18-yard catch and a 27 or a 21-yard catch, and just, is going to be an all-pro player. It's really hard. And Jimmy G is not a dangerous quarterback, but he's a professional quarterback. Like, he can move the ball, and they were getting the ball out quickly. They weren't setting him up to have to sit in the pocket for a long time. So they come down, they answer with a field goal. And at that point, I'm like, all right, maybe this is going to be a little bit more of a game than what I thought. But, I know the Bills are going to be able to move the ball. We're going to be fine. But they come
again,
right back.
I felt, though, in that situation, again, I had written down here, like, they went 10 plays, 46 yards, took 5 minutes to, again, this was, to me, a premier example of that Sean McDermott defense sort of settling in as this drive goes, right? Because they ultimately hold them to 3, even though this was a team that was driving to respond. And at my point was, we just scored 2 in a row. Josh seems to be clicking. We just went 11 plays, 84 yards in 6 minutes, and felt like we couldn't be stopped. If I'm putting this offense back out on the field and you're just kicking field goals, it felt to me the conversation we used to have about how, hey, we can't beat KC settling for field goals, and that's it when we're driving.
For sevens.
Yeah, I am so confident in this team when things feel like they're clicking the right way, that I feel like we're that team. Like, you can't beat the Buffalo Bills by going down and settling for those field goals. And to your point, trading those drives 7 for 3, I'll do that all day with you. We can get in a shootout, because that's going to go exactly how it ended up going for us, where we just keep putting those points on the board. And so where are we at? So we're 14-10 here. Bills get the big return out of Harris.
Yeah.
Here, right?
Damien Harris with a 41-yard kick return. I don't know that I had that on my bingo board as a possibility, but looked good. And I love the fact that he was getting the crowd excited. Then came right back. First catch by Dalton Kincaid at this point. Put his shoulder down, knocked back Nate Hobbs. I love to see that. Then a 9-yard run by James Cook. Right back to it with a short little pass to James Cook that he takes for 26 yards up the sideline. Looked really, really good there. Get to another 1st and goal and immediately go right at them with. I love being able to show the ability to run. And the one thing I think Josh was phenomenal today. He deserves all the flowers.
He got a little sloppy here.
The one here, like, he's coming up, he's running the ball, he's down to about to go to the 1-yard line, and there's Marcus Epps, who I mean, Marcus Epps is a professional defender technically, like that. I get it that he's there, but like, Josh Allen is 6'5", 250. Marcus Epps is 6 foot 191. You're at the 1-yard line when he's about to make contact for the first time. If Josh just like leans forward and runs through, they fall into the end zone together. There's no possibility Marcus Epps is knocking Josh backwards. And instead, Josh tries to jump over him, and like Epps kind of catches him in air and just comes down. And then unfortunately, we, then that puts us into the need for a 4th down. Josh can't find anybody open. You see there's some weird motion, and it looked like Hardy, it kind of slipped and then got up late and actually would have been open on the orbit motion afterwards, but he had slipped. So I think Josh had kind of moved on, and then incomplete pass. We turn over on downs, give him the ball
like
the 1
maybe
yard
that
line.
ball was going to Diggs. Diggs looked like he was breaking open in the back of the end zone, and Knox had to go up to even
Yeah,
make
he
a
had to
play on
jump
that ball.
way up
Right.
to one-hand it, and if he doesn't, it probably falls right into Diggs' hands for the touchdown.
Maybe I don't want to be that guy, but the thing that frustrated me was immediate reaction, at least on Twitter, which I know it's not real life, but I'm there and that's what I see, was a lot of frustration with the play call, right? Like, and I feel like that's just our de facto, like, it didn't work.
Hardy slipped
God,
the
what
orbit
a
motion,
terrible, right? But that's what I'm saying. Like,
walked into the end zone on the orbit motion there.
I am stuck between that of like, oh man, that play call doesn't seem like it worked, but also two guys could have scored on that play. Like something worked and something else went wrong, right? So I'm going to say
Knox almost came down with the one-handed catch. Sure. He almost made the catch.
Totally. It's a good play design. Here, to my point though, that I made earlier was maybe the frustration I had on this particular one was, we're so close. Why isn't Latavius Murray getting this with a head full of steam and just trying to pound one of those right in? Because I think that you get in there with him. To your point on Josh, this is a whole different type of ball game where if it's like, that's a silly jump where nothing really resulted, totally negative. We don't get points on this drive, but you put them in a position where they're backed up against the goal line. Like you don't feel terrible about it. But those are the kind of plays where if that wasn't just like the silly play where it ended with Josh just going down and he fumbles and they get a good return or something like that, then this is a totally stupid, different game. And we're having maybe a different conversation because this is a game within reach. And that's how you keep those types of teams. So your point, like, I'm not even so much upset that Josh got you in that position and didn't score, because I agree. If he just falls forward, you're scoring in that position, but that's a dangerous spot to go. And you, like, if you put the ball in harm's way on the goal line like that to give them an opportunity to get an explosive type play, that's where you let teams that have no business even hanging out in a game like that, and you're about to put them away. So that's where my frustration comes back to getting mad about Josh doing that. But we said it yesterday at the event, man. We talked to everyone and they're like, how do you get Josh to stop doing these things? And you just can't. He's gonna, when he sees a guy, he's gonna do stuff like this, man. And just you hope it stays clean and the game stays clean and it goes the way it did today. And none of that matters.
Yeah. Today couldn't be a better example. Probably one of the most efficient, cleanest games of Josh's entire career. That's not an exaggeration. It was really that good. And he also tried to jump over, Marcus Epps for a touchdown for no reason. Like, it's just, Josh going to be Josh. So as we get ready to wrap up the half here, that means they turn the ball over on the 1 yard line. And all of a sudden, maybe we have a chance for a safety. They get a quick little out to Davante Adams. Again, Davante Adams is an all-pro. He's phenomenal. We then tackled Josh Jacobs for no gain. And here, Ed Oliver is like inches away. Like, it was intentional grounding, but technically Garoppolo did a good job to get it close enough to a receiver where they basically gave him the benefit of the doubt, because that should have been an intentional grounding safety by Ed Oliver to be able to do it. They punt back, the Bills get the ball there, and now all of a sudden we're in the opening part of double dip territory. The Bills get the ball with 1:47 to go. They're kind of in a interesting, like, kind of 2-minute drill situation, but also close enough where they're trying to be careful. And they get to that weird third down where we get incompletion. We throw the ball to James Cook and the clock's running. And now you're kind of in like, well, it is third down. We don't want to punt it back to them with time on the clock. So they let the clock run a little bit. And then Josh hits Diggs for 17 yards on a really critical play for the whole way that was going. Then you have a quick sprint draw, which I really like to James Cook here on first down, where Josh was like sprinting over to him to get him the ball. And then he takes off down the sideline, go right back to Cook. They actually called it a first down, then changed it back to a 9.5 yard gain, made it second down, threw it back to Cook, went out of bounds again to stop the clock. You then had a play where Josh scrambled and would have been right down there for first and goal, but they called it back by a penalty. And they come right back, and Josh hits Gabe Davis for a really nice play, takes a shot to Dalton Kincaid, where Kincaid looks like he took a hard shot to the ribs. It came right back in the game afterwards. And then one of the most impressive plays that will probably get lost amidst this game was the touchdown pass on the end here.
Yeah.
It was a really muddy pocket. There were people all over, and it wasn't probably quite at the level of the Robert Foster Jacksonville play, but I don't understand how Josh got the ball out to Shakir at a low angle on a laser to Shakir to get to him, and he catches it and it falls into the end zone for a touchdown. Just a super impressive play that won't get the credit that it probably deserves, but go back and watch that play. I don't get how Josh even threw the touchdown pass.
He just flicked it. It's all just, that's the raw ability comes back, and that's the where everyone thinks arm strength is that, like, hey, he can push the ball 70 yards down the field, but the arm strength comes into play in the red zone when stuff's tight, everything's tightened up. And that play in particular, Greg, like, I swear to God, I thought that he was sacked and dead to rights and just like throwing the ball towards a receiver and just trying to dirt it somewhere where it wasn't going to get intercepted right there and just move along from that play. And then all of a sudden Shakir's like running across the goal, like all of it coming together. Yeah, I think it was a Mahomes-like play where it's like, this guy's dead to rights. There's no way he's going to be able to get a pass off. And he's just, you know, his head's looking up and his whole lower body's twisting towards the ground. And that ball is just on a dime right there in the red zone where everything's so tight. And good for Shakir coming in, making a play, right? Like minimal snaps, minimal usage for him, but getting his presence known, making a big play. That's good for his confidence and getting another touchdown on the board here. To your point, you've activated the double dip now. How cool does that feel to be able to send off those tweets on double dips, everything playing right into your hands like these. And yeah,
I'm not even going to ask. I'm not even going to ask. Like, this was one of the most impressive drives I remember.
Oh,
I don't have an
this is pristine double dipping
oppressive.
Right here. Yeah.
So the Bills score. Obviously, there was technically 2 plays at the end of the half. The defense didn't let them do anything stupid. So the Bills score a touchdown. They know they're getting the ball coming out of the half. You have a chance to really go from a 14-10 game where, you know, that's one of those stupid ones where if you get a weird bounce and somebody takes a fumble back for a touchdown, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, how are we losing to the Raiders? And all of a sudden they score a touchdown to make it 21-10. Okay, we got a comfortable lead, but we're getting the ball coming out of half. And the Bills answer with a 15-play, 75-yard, 9-minute touchdown drive. And in that drive, there was not a negative play. They move forward every single play of that drive with 2 different 4th down conversions, including the touchdown on 4th and goal to be able to score and convert on the drive. 15 plays, 75 yards, 9 minutes. It's setting the bar really high for West Herr drive of the game standards for the rest of the season, because that is a hell of a drive to completely put the nail in the coffin for all practical intents and purposes. They ended the game before the Raiders touched the ball in the second half.
Yeah, no, this is perfect double dippery. Like however you get it.
I endorse it fully.
Yeah, no, you go down, to your point, you just march right down the field. You put together an entire drive taking 9 minutes off the clock. And this is the only way the NFL is, even against teams where the spread should be that 9-point spread. Like, the only way you get to those types of games and blowouts like we've seen is these situations where you either create the turnovers to get multiple possessions in a row, or you create this double dip opportunity where you can really just start getting out and boat racing a team. And so being able to take advantage of these situations is really, you know, I know we all joke about it because it's fun and you can do some Seinfeld memes and talk about double dips, but to execute them and to, you know, to go into the game. I actually don't know. Did the Bills win the toss and defer? How did they end it up?
They won the toss and defer, so they chose to kick off the Raiders.
So when you go into the game making that plan, it all executes to the spot where you end up getting the possession needed to activate the double dip, and then you go and execute it. And not just like, hey, you come out and have a few big plays and you end up putting a touchdown drive together, but the meticulous way that they were, to your point, perfect play after perfect play. We say it all the time, how hard it is for other teams to do it against the Bills defense, put together 11, 12 play drives. So you just did it with 15 plays, 75 yards, 9 minutes off the clock. It's absolutely perfect. It's how you bleed out a team and an opponent that isn't as talented as you. You make them, you make Jimmy G and Devontae Adams sit on the bench for 9 minutes after the half and just watch your team just drag that defense down the field. Like, they come out, the game's over.
Yeah. I wish I had tracked the actual amount of time from the last time they had a drive, like when they had that field goal drive that we talked about or no, sorry, the 3 and out after when they're in the end zone and when the almost intentional grounding.
Correct.
I
the
wish I
safety.
knew what time that was until the actual, like, not game
Right.
clock, but the
Because
real
time of
life
possession
time
doesn't
was.
matter, but that does in terms
Oh
of
my
that's
God.
like a 35-minute, 40-minute with halftime.
It really might have been.
Like,
Yeah. It
in,
really
in
might have been
between
like
where
40
you're
minutes.
actually, and you have to go back quite far to that field goal drive to where not only was it time of the offense on the field, but time of the offense on the field moving the chains and having success. Like the offense probably was almost an hour there at that point where your offense was now getting stale.
Yeah. So apologies to the chat folks. We have a weird amount of spammers today. I'm trying to
It's hard
get them
for us
deleted.
to.
We normally have fantastic producer Chris here
I know.
helping us out. So
I've
I'm
been
trying to
leaning
catch
on
him
Chris
as we go.
so much. Yeah. Sorry about that,
So
guys.
again, shout out to our guys at West Her. They're fantastic,
Thank you so
amazing
much,
sponsors
man.
for the show. They supported us for so long. This is a well-deserved drive of the game, and excited to be able to do that. If you have any automotive needs, make sure to find them, the biggest automotive dealers in New York State, supporting and employing a lot of people in Western New York as well. So we appreciate them greatly. They're fantastic to work with.
And you would think the drive of the game is where like the game, like that's it. The game doesn't get any better. You're up 28-10. That's, it's a wrap, but it just keeps getting better. So stay tuned, stay with us. Like this, it just gets fun, right?
So now they go back and we get a couple where, again, we'll get into some of the box score stuff afterwards, but Josh Jacobs, all-pro running back from last year, had -2 yards on 9 carries. And that's not one of those like fluky -2 where there was like a -12 yard run. His long run of the day was 3 yards.
You're a fantasy guy. Those Josh Jacobs fantasy guys got to be sweating, right?
So fortunately for him, the 5 catches for 51 yards are going to like save him from having a complete goose egg. So he's going to end up with like 10 cheap points and kind of just some check down stuff.
Sure.
But it's still not pretty in the way that he went about it. So they shut it down again. He doesn't get much going. They get a pass to Austin Hooper where this was the Jordan Poyer I love to see, closing fast, really nice hit on Austin Hooper. And that's the kind of guy we talked about, learning his angles as he ages as a safety and still being able to make impactful plays. That was a really nice one. And then all of a sudden we see, a nice play to Austin Hooper. This was probably Jimmy G's best play of the game, where all of a sudden he's like rolling out and kind of motions down the field and flicks it up over top and actually makes a pretty nice throw to Austin Hooper. And you start to think, okay, they're at midfield. They're starting to get a little something going here. Are we gonna be concerned? And then fortunately, I don't have any other way to describe it, but Matt Milano, he mossed him. Like he went up over top of Josh Jacobs, took the ball out of his hands, and like Randy Moss intercepted an all-pro running back. Matt Milano is ridiculous.
All-pro Milano, man. He took that man's candy from him. Like he just went up and was like, "That it's mine." You know what I mean? He just plucked it right out of his hands. He's just so.
I saw another one. The Debo. That's my bike, punk.
Yeah. It's he's so aggressive in everything he does. And, we for years would be like, hey, watch out because his aggressive nature, can also burn you. And this year to start, it hasn't. And he is just playing at an even another level. If this type of maintained pace of getting turnovers and creating havoc, like could be a very fun year for Matt Milano as he gets going. And, we'll talk about him in the interception, but I know we kind of spoke on it a little bit earlier. I don't know how many more. I think there's an opportunity coming up here, but he and Bernard, like them flying around a little bit today was just, Bernard got the interception earlier. Now you get one here from Milano. And there was a couple where a guy comes up and I had to kind of like squint at my TV and be like, who was that? Was that Milano or Bernard, in on that type of play? And that's good to see because Milano said, I'm not going to say Bernard's going to play like that or be at that level, but that type of aggression, if you can have 2 guys flying around like that in the linebacker, it makes me feel a lot better about the shoes and trying to fill those that Tremaine left.
Well, I mean, shout out to Chris Parker yesterday, Bulldog, joining us over at the Left Turn Block Party. We talked a little bit about like, hey, how much time do we give Bernard here before we think maybe it's Kirksey? And I know Alex Brasky made a similar comment, and that, Brasky was talking about the same thing. Like, hey, it's probably not a 1-game thing. You got to give him like 4 games. I won't lie. Like after today, I'm going to assume that we need to give Terrel Bernard more time. Like he wasn't. Josh Jacobs is as difficult of a matchup as a middle linebacker as you're going to get. Jimmy G is a middle of the field ball control passer. This is like the danger zone for him. Of course, everybody's hard against Mahomes or Burrow, but no, we don't have anybody who's going to match up with Patrick Mahomes. It's, hey, don't let these games be a liability. And he came up in the run. He made plays. And I'm comfortable if we kind of let Christian Kirksey continue to be the break glass in case of emergency instead of I thought it was inevitable. I thought he was going to have to come in, and today certainly bought more time. I don't know that we're never going to see it, but it bought more time. Terrel Bernard played well. He deserves his flowers.
I haven't noted so this next Bills drive after that, I have a note after Bernard's stop early in the drive for the Raiders. I have a note there that because I was questioning why wasn't Kirksey immediately coming up and being that insurance policy safeguard where if this goes wrong mid-game, like we turn over to him, why are they being so impatient with that or being so patient with that? I was feeling impatient, and good on the Bills for being patient because I wrote here, like, give him his time. Like, let this, he has, I think, played over the last 2 games. What didn't start off great, but he really recovered well in that game, which tells you enough about a player too. Sean McDermott talks about that. Christian Benford probably needs a good recovery game coming up next week. He had some mistakes, and so it will be good to see how a young player responds to some of the mistakes he put on film. But Bernard, I thought, really showed an impressive, at least to keep that job, to your point, maybe extend. So I had it for that first 4 weeks. Now I'm comfortable with that leaking into a 6 to 8 week, give him a good stretch here. And even if he has a bad game, I feel comfortable that I've seen something in the NFL and against a real team in an NFL game that he can play at least in an acceptable level. And if not, be a guy that can create some turnovers and a little bit of havoc if all things are clicking.
Yeah, and this next drive where they got it back after that interception, you saw some good mix, both Latavius Murray and James Cook. You saw Dalton Kincaid. And then, honestly, one of the few times that the Raiders legitimately got pressure, they had a really nice blitz call. Devontae Diablo had a clean run right at Josh Allen, and Josh was smart. He just kind of cradled, covered the ball, took the hit, and had, it was a nice 7-yard loss, put us into a tough spot. And ended
a little
up
nervous this drive. Mitch Morse went out on
correct.
This drive.
Yeah, we weren't sure.
The 10, Bates comes in. Although you feel a lot better about that situation this year, having Ryan Bates be that alternative rotational guy, right?
Yeah, we had a couple. We'll talk about it here. I think I heard Micah Hyde said he was great and could have come back in. Leonard Floyd said he could have come back in. Mitch Morse, obviously, anytime he goes out, we immediately have concern about the concussion history and not knowing where things are coming from. The Bills announced it as a uniform issue, and he had to go in there. And yes, it was announced as a uniform malfunction.
So
he had to go into the 10. Everybody poops. It's fine. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
It's going to happen in a game. Yeah.
Everybody poops.
Sometimes farts turn into poops.
Never trust a fart. Never trust a fart. So I respect it. The man had to take care of business, and he came right back in the game. So
I missed that. That was not an injury.
It was formally announced as a uniform malfunction, and I have a feeling the malfunction was him needing to pull his pants down. But we'll see. Well, you never know.
Who knows?
Anything could have got fixed inside that blue tent. You never
Correct.
Know. So this actually took us into the fourth quarter. So the Bills do end that with a field goal. Again, I think Sean McDermott made the right decision on every fourth down. We went for it 4 times.
Were you mad he took a timeout to make the right decision? Because I made a tweet, taking probably a bit of a subtweet at somebody, people saying that, hey, at least Sean McDermott trusts his players enough to make the right decision there to allow them to go for it. Then I had a bunch of haters being like, yeah, but it needed a timeout to do it. Like, you ultimately get to the same spot, and you're at such a point here, like they can't come back, right? Like,
so I guess that's technically not perfect. You would you wouldn't want to need to use a timeout here. I would say when you're up 28-10, it's probably not as critical of the timeout usage and likelihood of its normal value. Second half timeouts are super, super valuable. You never want to mess around or roll the dice because you never know what's going to happen. Sure. I feel pretty confident that there was a very low likelihood of needing that tight end at the end of the Raiders game. But yes, in theory, you would have preferred to keep that timeout and not need to use it in that spot. But again, here we actually had a nice little draw play on to James Cook to get 14 of those yards back, make it a little bit easier of a field goal. And then on 4th and 8, you do kick. So you're able to be in a position to go and to take care of that. And 4th and 8 is the time that you do kick. There's no reason, there's no score benefit when you're up 18 points.
Yeah.
So you might as well, that's not a huge difference. Kick it, put yourself up to 3 touchdowns. It's perfectly normal. And then again, go right back to them. The Bills or the Raiders are, trying to put anything together here. And again, can't even really get much of anything going here and go 4 plays and out, not a technical 3 and out, because they did get a first down on the first play. But 4 plays and kick it right back to the Bills. And this one was a really nice punt by AJ Cole that had a crazy bounce and got downed at the 5-yard line. And again, 12 minutes left in the game. You go back, and if we hadn't have already used it on the other one, now an 11 play, 95-yard, 7.5 minute, just complete 4-minute offense, clock killing drive to be able to put the game completely away at this point, and just domination to end the game.
Yeah, total domination. You did get one back. Josh had the tipped ball go for a pick that there was a hands to the face where that ball comes back. So awesome that you don't.
Coots came out of blitz around the end and was free and was able to hit Josh, and it kind of fluttered up in the air. Got called back correctly. I mean, it really was a penalty. It was
definitely a penalty. You get a little
penalty.
Lucky in that situation because those penalties happen a lot. But it keeps Josh's scorecard clean, keeps that nice box score nice and clean. You get the ball back. The play for me the 2 actually, they're right back, not back to back, but really in order here. Diggs gets that screen and it goes for 16 yards. Not even an explosive play, but his athleticism, dude. Like I think we always underestimate how athletic he is.
It's always so the route
smooth
running,
and effortless.
Yeah,
but the way he bounced on that screen, like he bounced like a whole 3 yards from one spot to another, like teleporting, and then just bursts for a 16-yard gain out of nowhere. And he does it so smooth and effortless that it makes it look easy. And I think we take advantage of how athletic freak he actually is. And then you have the 3rd and 6. And this is the one where Davis it's kind of backyard football at this point, right? The route breaks down. Nobody's open. Josh is rolling out. He's doing one of those. He's kind of pumping, hoping somebody gets open. He just floats one real nice to Davis, catches it right in his breadbasket while running. You get a 40-yarder for Davis, which caps off a fantastic day for him, right? 6 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown. This 40-yarder adds quite a bit to it. You finish off the drive, you're going again to the goal line. You score on a Harris touchdown here. But those couple plays after, hey, you turn the ball over, you get it back, and then just to go down and go boom, boom, and just put it down and get in and get points and just call it a day. That's it. You wrapped it up. Offense goes. Steph, Allen just sitting on the bench, chilling, cracking jokes, having a good time. Everything's good. I'm tweeting off we're back tweets, talking smack. The game's over and setting up for the post game.
Yeah, and obviously, we score there. They punch it in with Damien Harris. Again, this was a lot of 4-minute offense, just continuing to punch it right at them. They punch it in to go up 38-10. The Bills then pull all their starters and have all backups in on defense, and the Raiders do start to get a little something going. But the Bills' backups are people like Dane Jackson and Taylor Rapp, and Dane Jackson comes up with a phenomenal form tackle to knock the ball out of Zamir White. Taylor Rapp falls on it. The Bills get the ball back, and even in getting the ball back to salt it away, they technically couldn't kneel it out, so they had to run the ball. James Cook broke off another 36-yard run to be able to do it. So let's take this moment to kind of circle back and look at some of those box scores of how we came together.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, 31 of 37, 4 of those 6 incompletions were either spikes or intentional throwaways. Yeah. So his final adjusted completion percentage is going to be 94%. Damn. 31 of 33. The 2 incompletions were in the end zone. 2 incompletions.
I'm pretty sure one Dawson Knox.
Dalton Kincaid got crushed, and Dawson Knox, I think,
broke that play.
Had a tip ball on Stefon Diggs' touchdown.
Did he have a deflection for the Raiders?
Did they call it pass breakup? So Josh Allen ends up with a quarterback rating of 124.5. It's going to be a ridiculous. I think he tried to like fix all of his season total analytics in one
Josh
game.
just told everybody to go
after the first
themselves.
game. Yeah, I think he used a different word.
Yeah.
And going through there, the one that I think we should be really happy with, obviously that means there was a really good distribution amongst the pass catchers, and you saw it all over the place. Our top guys got the ball. That's what we want to see. Stefon Diggs, 7 for 66. And like you said at the pre-show, it was kind of surprising it was only 7 for 66. He probably looked better than that.
Yeah.
Gabe Davis, 6 for 92 and a touchdown. That 40-yarder really made a big difference. Dalton Kincaid, 5 for 43, and his only incompletion was on that crazy hit in the end zone on what could have been his first career touchdown. 4 nice checkdowns to James Cook. We'll get to his day in a minute here. Dawson Knox, 3 catches and a touchdown. It just tons of distribution. You had 9 different guys catch a ball. The passing offense was exactly what you want to see without needing to take crazy risks. Distributed out 9 guys with the ball. All of our top guys, 6 targets. It was great.
Yeah, this is like exactly how you draw it up. I wrote target distribution in my final, game notes, that there's so much different conversation that we have. Like whenever the offense starts to struggle, you start to say, hey, Diggs needs to get 12 touches a game. I know on Spaces we had a conversation with some guy who was trying to say he needs 15 to 20 targets. Like, all right, that's crazy, right? Like things have to be in line. I think this is a really nice display of some of that and what to expect out of Knox and Kincaid. And I said last week, double what they got. They got the 8, get that to whatever. Let's go 12 to 16 targets. And then with 11, I'm cool there. Like there's only one ball to go around. And if you can get it split amongst your 2 top wide receivers, 7-7, or say it's 10 to Diggs and 6 to Gabe Davis some games, but somewhere around here where it's getting spread out, to your point, 9 different guys are getting looks at the ball. I think that's how you remain effective and efficient. Don't allow teams to do anything where you get into a game where it's bracket coverage on Diggs and they're just taking that away from you, right? And so in a game like this, go ahead, take Diggs away. We're going to keep dealing the ball everywhere else that you're giving us opportunities. And so, yeah, Knox wasn't particularly effective on his 5 targets outside of the touchdown. There, it was 3 catches on 5 targets for 10 yards. But that distribution from the tight end room, like you have 2 games where it's growing, it's increasing. Bill's leaning into that 2 tight end set and using them when they're on the field. Now that becomes something defensive coordinators are really going to have to focus in and game plan on. And that only opens up more for Diggs and Davis, who are already feasting for a good season.
So this part I'm going to kind of double up because I want to use it in between the passing game recap and the running game. And I want to talk about the offensive line. Josh Allen got touched twice. None of those times were by Max Crosby.
Yeah.
Spencer Brown was not perfect. I do not want to overstate this.
He had a lot of help.
Max Crosby beat Spencer Brown a couple times, and Spencer Brown had a ton of help, chipping, double teams,
just
and
working away from him.
Yeah, timely scrambles, rolling away, smart game planning. But that combination of putting Spencer Brown in a position to not let Max Crosby take over a game, that's all we need. I don't remember. I would love if Spencer Brown turned into Trent Williams. I don't need him to be Trent Williams. I just need him not to let an all-pro guy opposite him take over the game because he can't do anything. And this was more than adequate. He deserves some flowers here today. He did a nice job. He was not flawless. I'm sure when the stats come out, it's going to show he got beat a couple times. But honest to God, Max Crosby never touched Josh Allen. That's pretty damn good.
I had notes throughout. Max Crosby still not taking this game over. You had if it was going to be an interception, that one play where Crosby just got in, deflects the ball.
Yeah, I think Kuntz came around Crosby, and Crosby's interior pressure kind of caused it.
Yes, but Max Crosby's the kind of guy where all week long, that's my concern. I'm talking about on the preview show, and I'm not actually like losing sleep and having like sleep deprivation, but it is the thing when I'm like thinking about the Bills game, man, this is going to be bad for Spencer Brown. He might get embarrassed. I hate to say like taking moral victories, like not getting embarrassed against a guy like Max Crosby is a huge victory. And to your point, like playing at an above adequate level for the game to where you're not even a problem at all. You're not even in my notes of like Spencer Brown whiffed here and caused tons of chaos and havoc. you weren't the problem. You're, in my opinion, the weak link along that offensive unit. The opposite, the team that you're going against has their strength is against your weak link. And for you to not vomit all over yourself in that situation is a huge win, because you're not going to get, you might get bigger tests along the front seven, definitely within front fours in the league, where you're going to not be able to maybe put so much help his way to help Spencer Brown, but you're not going to get a lot better tests of putting Spencer Brown against a premier pass rusher and seeing what can happen. And I think he did well enough to feel good. Hey, we can patch this together against really good players and at least have Josh play at an acceptable level behind that.
Yeah, I mean, hell, but besides what Myles Garrett and Micah Parsons, like, I mean, there's a very small list of people. There's a very small list of people that you would put directly above. You know, granted, he's maybe not like literally third, but like once you get past that absolute top tier of the very best edge rushers in the league, Max Crosby's next. Like, he's one of the better pass rushers in the league. So again, Spencer Brown deserves his flowers. He had a really nice game today. It wasn't perfect. It was not exceptional. He did not become a franchise right tackle, but he did his job. And we won today in part because he did his job. And one thing we do know about him is he is a very good run blocker. And one of the reasons Max Crosby did not have as great of a game is we ran right at Max Crosby several times. And I saw multiple plays where Spencer Brown and Osiris Torrance had just a push going downfield. And we saw that across the board. 35 carries for 183 yards. I'll even take out the two kneel downs at the end of the game. So 185 yards over the 33 carries, 5.6 yards per carry. At one point, I won't lie, I really wanted it, just because I called it on the two different shows, that I really wanted all three guys to get 50 yards. But the fact that they ran for 183 total, I'll take it, because James Cook broke off the longer one at the end. If I could have got a little bit more mix in there with some Latavius Murray 4-minute offense, but they were great. It was exactly what we wanted to see. That's the weapon we need to give Josh Allen. So this is a game where Josh Allen threw the ball 37 times. And I think most people are going to think of the run game more in this game than the pass. It's incredible to have that combination for Josh to have that good of a game. And some people will think of this as a running game really speaks to what the potential is.
Yeah, no, again, to the point I made earlier, as advertised from all three running backs, right? You saw James Cook do all the things that we've seen him do, continuing to do it when he gets those touches. There was one run play where
tough runs for a little guy.
Yeah, he didn't do really like put a move on a guy except for accelerate. All he did was accelerate along the edge and got a full step and a half on a NFL defensive back where they're just stumbling to keep up with him. And that burst turns into an extra 8-9 yard gain on some of those plays. And so there's a little sense of frustration early on when he was running into some trouble, running behind guards and stuff like that. And they weren't getting him going early. And then you saw Harris and Murray start to kind of break that up, and you send those bigger guys in at it. And then it does open up some stuff for Cook. And so I still don't think, a lot of people that were pushing that this is running back one and he needs to have that, like, be a bell cow. That's just not how the NFL operates. And to have three guys, if you're have an efficient running game like this, where you're rotating in and situationally using guys in situations that make sense for them, it's so tough for a defense to wrap their head around the difference between the type of game plan and responsibility when James Cook and how they're using Cook on those draws where Josh Allen, to your point, what you said earlier, Josh Allen, like sprinting to go run and get him with that draw, the way you have to play that versus Latavius Murray coming straight downhill in front of your guards, like totally different, puts you on your heels and really allows you to dictate to the opposing defense, which Eric and Anthony, we talk about all the time.
Yeah, it's exactly the kind of balance we want. We're not going to become a run first team. We don't have a bell cow back. Like you said, we don't. Like, that's not ever, I'm comfortable. That's not ever what James Cook's going to be. Like, he's not going to be a bell cow back. But if I had told you
super explosive
or asked you how many games we were going to have where James Cook was going to have 21 touches, I don't know that I would have guessed there was a lot of those. I don't know that I would have guessed there was a lot of 21 touch games coming for James Cook. And I know
a part of that yards on that too. Like, that's
Eric here talked about. There was a lot of people talk. I don't know that I believe the under center versus shotgun thing is quite as big of a deal as people make it out to be. But I do know that play action is more effective from under center. And it wasn't an accident that we saw a bit more. Josh is more comfortable in shotgun. I want to do whatever makes Josh Allen more comfortable. It's just not any more complicated than
today.
that. He looked damn comfortable today.
He looked very good
so
to me.
If that was a good mix of under center versus shotgun, I'm good with that to go with it. So shout out to James Cook, Damien Harris, and Latavius Murray both look good. Both of them got touchdowns. Damien Harris had the 40+ yard kick return. I love that idea where I think almost everyone on offense walks away from today feeling good, like they had a good game.
Yes,
because almost everybody did. That's all you can ask. That's really nice to be in that kind of situation.
You don't score 38 points in the NFL without a defensive or special teams touchdown, without everybody on the offense having a game where they're all going to grade pretty well when the Bills do their own internal grades. Like, this is a great day for the film room. I'm sure last week was not a fun day, even though they got through that film pretty quick. Sitting around watching that, this is going to be a much better victory celebration. They're going to get a full victory Monday here to really take this one in. Yeah, I think the offense needs to go treat themselves to some dinner and get some wings tonight, because there's nobody here that I got notes on that I'm mad about, right? Ken Dorsey had a great week. The coaches, they should all be taken out. This was a nice bounce back performance. Again, against the team that you should. And there's probably a lot more. We probably should have spent more time talking about the defense and that performance again by a Sean McDermott defense. This is a DVOA is going to start really looking good for this defensive unit, but we're not even talking about them because of how good this offense looked after looking so bad with the 4 turnover game. Almost perfect again this week.
Yeah, holding the Raiders to 240 total yards is crazy. They only ran 39 plays, 29 to 13 first down differential is enormous in today's NFL.
It's crazy.
We gave a lot of flowers out on defense, so we don't need to rehash everything. But one name that didn't come up, Daquan Jones was a monster today. Like, he had the perfect combination of what we want in. Obviously, he always has the awesome stout run defense. He also had some nice like pressure, pocket pushing pressures to be able to get in Jimmy G's face. So there's a lot of that there. They were getting the ball out quick. So to have as dominant of a game as the defensive line played, and it's going to technically say that we had no sacks.
It's going to still frustrate. Crazy. Yeah, we've had these arguments.
The play where the Jimmy G intentional grounding play that should have been a sack, the one where he technically fell forward for like a half-yard gain, so it wasn't a sack. 2 more where there were pressures that caused third down turnovers where he had to throw it away because he got pressured. Those 4 plays are equal to sack, maybe not the safety. The safety is more valuable. Everything else there, we got all the things.
The results ended up being
they got no benefit from the difference of what we did versus what they ended up getting. But it's just funny to be in a position like that to see it, and this defense deserves all that credit.
Yep. Absolutely.
Anything else for the people here? This was an awesome game. I have one request for everybody before we close out here. Give us a like. It really helps a lot. That's the way to use word of mouth and to tell other people about that you enjoyed this game and what you liked about our show here. That's how you do it. Just hit the like button on your way out. It really, really goes a long ways. I leave for Las Vegas in the morning, so I'm going to be doing a show from a hotel room Wednesday night.
Back to normal for us, then.
Yeah, correct. It's going to be back to like what we used to do before. Yeah, I'm excited. I got confused. I thought the game was in Vegas, so I was heading out there, and I just picked the wrong date. I didn't understand. Looking forward to that trip, and then we'll be back here. Carl here, a great way to finish it. The best stat on D is Josh Jacobs, 9 carries for -2 yards. And I just saw ESPN stats and info. The NFL's reigning rushing champion. This is the first time since the 1970 merger a reigning NFL rushing champ finished a game with negative rushing yardage. The Buffalo Bills defense just did that.
Yep. Yeah. So all those concerns about the Bills run defense going up against a bigger team, you know what I mean? They just continuously do that. So no, I have nothing really else to add. It's a beautiful day here in Western New York, beautiful fall day. I'm going to go keep my flag up and celebrate a victory for the next 24 hours here in Western
I'm
New
going to go
York.
turn on my new lights. Watch my
Yeah.
social media feed. I'm going to go
I'm
turn
going
on
to
my new lights.
retweet highlights all night. It's going to be awesome. It's a Victory Monday. We're back in the normal vibe of things. I do want to give a special shout out to everyone who came out to join us at the Left Turn festivities, the podcast, everyone who came out to be on the podcast, everybody that came out to show support. That buzz going into the game, now the Bills winning, I am fully back in Bills football. That week 1 didn't even happen. Let's just move forward. We are back, ready to go.
Absolutely. So on behalf of all the folks in the chat and normally fantastic producer Chris Kepner,
right.
Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You've been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.